Hi, my name's Bernie Smith. I was born on July 16th, 1945 in the city of Newark, New Jersey. As a kid, I don't remember living in Newark. My first memory is when my dad was going to Montclair State after the war on the GI Bill, needless to say. And we were living on Montclair State. And that's my first memory of my life was, being there. All my relatives lived in Newark. My father was from Newark, my mom was from Newark, so we spent a lot of time going down there and visiting. All right, and I have spent a lot of time in my life in Newark doing different things. And we'll get into some of those later on. But you know, after he graduated from Montclair State, he got a job in Stillwater, New Jersey as a teacher and also principal of the school. And it was a great school. And this is like 1950 now. And the grade school was first and second grade were together, third and fourth was together, fifth and sixth was together, and seven and eight were together. All right. That's how small the school was. Okay. And we spent about 8 years living in Stillwater, and I remember going back to Newark, especially for St. Patty's Day. All right. There was always a big parade downtown Newark, on Broad Street, and all my uncles and cousins and everybody else would either be taking part in the parade or being a spectator on the sidelines. And all my grandparents lived there for most of their lives. My one grandmother moved to East Orange, which is like around the corner, so no big difference. But and Stillwater was a neat place to grow up. It was out in the sticks, literally. This is 1950 now. No TV reception until like 1955. And as a kid, great place to grow up. Unlimited woods. I had 4 or 5 good playmate buddies that, we go exploring all over the place. And one time I had asked my mom, I says, we used to have breakfast, leave the house, and not come home until dinner. And I said, didn't you worry about us? And she goes, no, everyone knew who you were. If we did something wrong or we did something right, she was going to hear about it. And Stillwater was just a good place to grow up as a kid. Unfortunately, my dad had started working down in Bloomfield, and it was quite a commute to get down there. And that's when we moved down to Hazlet, to get closer to his job and give us more opportunities. That's one thing about Stillwater was that we had to go 10 miles to go to the movies and stuff like that, which was in Newton, the big city. I'd say I was a pretty normal kid. I don't remember having any trouble in school necessarily. I got along with most of my playmate buddies. When we moved from Stillwater when I was 12, so we're talking about a really young age in Stillwater. And it was good because one of my friends, his parents owned a local farm, and the farm was right in the middle of town. Okay, and we got to do farm things, help during hay season, help during corn harvest season, milk the cows, herd the cows into the barn, that kind of thing, it was just a good experience to have as a kid. I was very lucky, part of my lucky life. Uh, when we moved to Hazlet, it was because the Parkway had opened up, the Garden State Parkway. So it made it possible to commute up to the city from Hazlet. It took like a half hour, and the housing development that went on south of the Raritan River was just unbelievable. Houses, houses, houses. Unfortunately, when we moved to Hazlet, there was a lot of houses, but no schools. All right. And we ended up being bused down to Rumson to go to an old school that was closed essentially, and they opened it back up so the kids from Hazlet could go there. And it had a tri-shift sessions, morning, afternoon, and evening. It was a horrendous education fiasco. So it ended up that my parents put us in St. Joe's Catholic Grammar School in Keyport. Okay. And that was my first year in Catholic school, was 8th grade. And was I terrified? I didn't know how to handle the nuns, and they do. But all the people I met and made friends with, they did know how to handle the nuns, and they weren't intimidated by them by now in 8th grade. Okay, but one of the good things that came out of that was at the same time, a group of men from the Red Bank area founded a school, Christian Brothers Academy, in Lincroft, New Jersey, which was a private Catholic boys' school. And I was able to attend high school there. And that's where, I was really influenced by a lot of things. I had a good education there, all right? And I'm still associated with the school. They're still doing a lot of things. I was in the first graduating class, which was kind of neat. The first year was just freshmen. Then as we moved up, they keep adding classes. So we were the first class to graduate from the school back in 1963. And I think I was influenced by a lot of my decisions in life from my attending that school. And I was a sports guy, played football, ran track, played basketball, intramural wise, and always seemed to, I enjoyed high school. I enjoyed the classes. I enjoyed playing sports, and they were a big sports school. They still are. They're always winning state championships and stuff like that. And I had gone to college, and I was in the Navy, and I had a good single life in the Navy. And when I came out and I got a job with the Singer Company, I was still hanging out with my high school buddy, and still having a good time and stuff. And I think it was when I decided to get married, and I think I was like 29 years old, that you got to start growing up, and being a little bit more mature. I was making a good living, and not getting in trouble or anything like that, but I was enjoying my life. I traveled and, worked hard and did what I wanted to do, went to a lot of sporting events in my life, and stuff like that, and then that grinds to a halt after a while, so I'd say it was late 20s that I really started to, my mom was very worried about me. Again, Mom told me that. So I was going to LaSalle College in Philadelphia, and one semester I decided that I had to get out and think about this deal because I was struggling in college, and so I dropped out for a semester. And 3 weeks later, I got my draft notice. This is during Vietnam now. Okay. And my dad was a Navy guy. We were a Navy family. So after I got the draft notice, I went down to Lakehurst Navy base and joined the Navy the next day. Stopped at the draft board on my way home and said, I'm in the Navy now. You can't draft me. And then, and this was a changing part of my life. Am I still shaking the table? This is during the 60s. There was a lot of stuff going on, civil rights wise and everything, so, and I hadn't experienced that in my white suburban neighborhood, really. It definitely didn't happen in Stillwater. I don't think there was any people of color in Sussex County in 1950. And I didn't realize what was going on until I got to college, which was 1963, when the civil rights movement really started to gear up and get going, And I remember going downtown to Independence Hall in Philadelphia and, seeing a protest and stuff like that. And then a year later, I joined the Navy, full time. And that was a good experience for me because I ended up getting assigned to the Hurricane Hunters in Jacksonville, Florida, which gave me a bigger opportunity to fly around the Caribbean, go to different islands down there and stuff. Again, here I am, single young 20s. It was a good time. So I enjoyed it, but I learned a lot too then. Because when I went into the Navy, there was a lot of guys that were younger than me that joined the Navy right out of high school. And one of the things that I never did was payday came and these guys would go out partying, and I would wait for the the day after payday, because the local bars were just full of young people getting inebriated. I think I might have got off that question that you asked, but.
Well, we were just talking about the Navy and what that experience was like. So you joined the Navy and you got assigned to the Hurricane Hunters.
And it was good. And I always had wanted to travel, and even going to Jacksonville was an experience for me. Okay, being down south. I can remember being at the bus station in Jacksonville and using the restroom. I came out and all my buddies are laughing because I walked into the colored bathroom. All right, and I never even thought twice about that. But that was the kind of experience that was going on. This is 67 now that we're talking about, 1967, and being with an active squadron like that, it was very busy. And what would happen was when hurricane season came, we would always have a plane or two planes down in Roosevelt Roads in Puerto Rico. So it was a rotating basis. Every 3 weeks, you would spend 10 days down in Puerto Rico flying weather patterns out over the eastern towards Africa, really. That's where the hurricanes always form now and stuff. So we got to do that, and I got to see a lot of different islands in the Caribbean when I was on that, Barbados and Jamaica. And again, now I'm being introduced to a different culture of people, and ways of life, down there. And I also got an opportunity to go to Europe. In 1968, the Russian fleet and the U.S. fleet were playing chicken with each other in the Mediterranean. And we went over to fly reconnaissance on that. We had radar and stuff on the plane to do this. And we, flew into Rota, Spain, and that was like our main base. And then we would fly patterns and end up going to Naples, Italy, and spend a couple of days there. Again, this is an eye-opening experience, and that was about probably a 2-week trip that we did that, stayed in Spain and Italy, going back and forth. And we had a side trip to Madrid out of that deal. We went there for a couple of days. And also to fly over there, we stopped at Bermuda, stopped at the Azores, and it was an eye-opening experience on both of them. First time in Bermuda, and I had been back to Bermuda a dozen times since that because of that. It's just a beautiful spot. What else can you say? And the Azores were like, oh man, right in the middle of the ocean, all these people are living, and it was cool. So kind of wrap up and summarize your time in the Navy. It sounds like it was a culturally eye-opening experience, and if you would, in your own words, kind of summarize and wrap up your time in the Navy. And one of the things that happened in the Navy was when I was in Jacksonville on the ground, I got introduced to data processing. We had a system in the squadron on the base where we would keep track of the maintenance on the planes, the material, the man hours, the time that it would take to do a maintenance job on a plane, change an engine, it takes so many hours and stuff like this. And I was the office person for that. I would run the cards, all the time cards up to the data center on base, and next day I'd pick up the reports and bring them back. But because of that, it got me interested in data processing, all right, which became my life work after that. So I had a good experience in the Navy. I was in a program 2x6. I had to serve 6 years in the reserves and 2 years active duty. And the 2 years active duty went pretty quick because of all the different things that I was encountering during my time there. When I got out of the Navy, I was looking for a high school buddy and ran into his brother, who was the operations manager for Singer Data Center. Okay. And he hires me right on the spot. He had known me in high school. Matter of fact, he was in high school when we were playing football. It was intramural. And he would be the coach. And I didn't know anything about playing football when I started, and he was really good. So I knew the guy personally, and he hired me on the spot. And I never got to meet my buddy until I started working, and I was there probably a year, and then Penny started to work there. And that's how I met Penny. She had moved back to New Jersey from Maryland, and I had gotten this job at the data center in the tape library. And as soon as I saw her, I knew, no doubt in my mind. All that chasing that I had done during the 20s came to an end. So, and we dated for a couple of years before we got married. So we kind of felt each other out, and got to know each other. And I also introduced her to travel. All right, she had been to Florida, I think, once in her life or twice in her life. We made some side trips to Bahamas and Jamaica and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was after we were married. Yeah, we celebrated our first anniversary down there. And then my high school buddy at the time had left Singer, and he was working down in Puerto Rico, so we got to hook up with him again. Yeah. And that was it's coming up on, I want to make sure I get this right. It's coming up on 49 years that we've been married, so we've known each other more than 50 years. We were down in the Bahamas, and we were on Paradise Island, and this has got to be like 1973 now, okay? And we're sitting on the beach watching all these people with sunfish tipping over, I said, oh, we can go out and tip over too, So I got the guy to show me how to sail the boat, and the two of us went out and, horsed around on that and got the bug. And we came back from that vacation and went into, took sailing lessons down at Monmouth Beach in New Jersey. And shortly after that, we bought that boat, from a guy who was moving up. It was a 22-foot O'Day that we just loved to death. And we had the boat for several years. And one of the highlights that we did, we had that boat in 1976 when they had the bicentennial with all the sailboats and ships coming into New York Bay. And we stayed out on the water for 4 days during that, And so it was an excellent time. We had a good time. Unfortunately, we sold the boat as a down payment on the house, which we moved into on 77. We had been living down in Middlesex County, and we both worked in Elizabeth. She worked for the courthouse, and I was working for Singer at the time when we did that. And it was, and the way that came about was we were looking in Hunterdon County, and they had multiple listing books. This is before the day of the computer. And the multiple listing book that we were using had a section on Warren County. And as I flipped the page, it was like the same house in Hunterdon County and Warren County, but the Warren County house was like $10,000 cheaper. I said, oh, all right. And I had relatives that lived in Hackettstown. And so we went there, and the realtor wanted us to look at this house a couple of times, but it was above our budget. So I said no, and finally we said yes. And before we left the driveway, we knew we were going to buy this house. And we got a good view. I still look out the window every morning. So, and it's been good. We raised the kids here, and I don't really want to move. Penny wants to move down to South Jersey for obvious reasons. I'm not ready to do that. So, again, one of the things that happened around this time was I'm 27, 28 years old, and New Jersey had passed the law that allowed 18-year-olds to drink. And all of a sudden, the bars were just mobbed with 18-year-old people. And I didn't care for it at all, And so Penny's a couple of years younger than I am, but she was more mature than 18-year-olds that were hanging out in the bars, and very pretty girl, and, that caught my eye right away. Very pretty eyes, nice blonde hair, what's not to like, okay? And I think me taking her on trips and dating in places that we went when we were dating, because I like good restaurants. And one of the things I've always said that was, I had a lot of buddies that got married right out of high school and struggled, you know, financially mostly. All right. Now I'm 28 years old. I'm somewhat established. I got a good job. I'm making good money. All right. I like to go to good restaurants and shows and stuff like that. You know, I think she was impressed that I knew about stuff and how to do that. All right. And also traveling. You know, we had some good trips. Now, after we were married in '74, and Ben didn't come along till '78. So those 4 years, we made like 2 vacations a year. You know, traveling vacations. You know, going to different places and stuff like that. So we had a lot of good times and really got to know each other and stuff like that. You know, and sharing the ownership on the sailboat was like our first common thing that we did together, and that worked out well. I think I'm one of 6 kids, and I think my parents did a good job showing me how to get through life. Okay. And Penny also says quite often that my parents showed her how to be a grandparent, that she's referring to now because we're grandparents. But, you know, we had Ben came along in '78 and, you know, started, you know, talk about having a life-changing experience. As soon as you have kids, you learn a lot of medical terms all of a sudden start popping up in your life, you know, and going to the doctors for this and for that and stuff like that. And one of the things that I enjoyed in my lifetime was the continuity of living in the same space. All right. And I wanted to do that. Penny had moved all over the place. You know, like every 2 years, she was someplace else, you know, went to the 3rd grade 3 times because they were moving around and whatever. And I wanted that for our kids, okay? And we gave that to them. You know, they were born here, they grew up here, they have friends here, you know, they know the area, you know, inside out because they were so experienced. You know, I had a lot of good experiences growing up, and they, you know, both of them were very active in sports right from the get-go. And it's like Erin's a lefty, and I didn't realize that until she picked up a bat one day and assumed that left-hand position naturally. I thought, oh, she's a lefty, so it was good. You know, and I think, you know, they're both doing pretty good. So, and again, with a lot of life lessons. You know, and Erin also, Erin was born in '83, and one time she says to her mother, "How come you never taught me how to budget?" Because Penny and I were very lucky. We're both in data processing, both making a nice dollar. All right, so we weren't wasteful with money, but you know, we had enough, you know, and that was made life easy. You know, we never wanted for anything, you know. So, but it was good raising the kids. Since COVID happened, we really haven't traveled that often. I think we did make a trip down to Florida last year for a funeral. But, you know, we've been to so many places, there isn't an urgency to go do that. One thing that I've been doing now is I'm into Ancestry.com. And I've been doing that for about 12 years now. And Penny's family was here on day one. And it's like, I just found this out recently that she didn't have a relative on the Mayflower. He was the navigator on the Mayflower. You know, and it's stuff like that that I've been finding out. And her family was founder of Coca-Cola, okay, down in Georgia, and very big Georgia family, came from Ireland, all right, and settled in North Carolina or Virginia and Georgia and Ohio. I just recently found out. And I would like to make a road trip for that. There's a cemetery down in Lynchburg, Virginia. It's a Camler cemetery. And that's where the original person was buried, that came from Ireland and stuff like that. So I'd like to go down there, investigate that. They also were instrumental in founding Emory University down in Atlanta. And the family cemetery is down there too. It has a lot of the Candler people, her mother's people are in there. So I'd like to make a trip down. And we've been to Emory University checking out her relatives and stuff like that. So very nice campus. So it was good. But I'd like to make a trip like that. As far as going overboard, our passports are due this month. And I don't think I'm gonna renew it. I don't. Now again, because we're both getting a little bit older. Now I don't walk as well. What are you gonna do? If you get in a situation, I do all right when it's flat, but if there's any kind of grade to it, it's tough. And I hate to be on a trip someplace and get stuck walking up this 1,000-step, tourist site or whatever. We'll see. One other thing too, cost an arm and a leg. Holy cow! I can't believe. I was just telling someone this story the other day. About 40 years ago, my dad says to me, "I can't believe the amount of money you spend." And it's not like he was saying it like I was wasting it, but just the cost of things. And I'm in the same position now. Look at the price of tickets for football games. It's outrageous. Everything costs more. So I don't see us hopping on a plane and going anyplace. I have started on my computer, and I do this from time to time. I have my autobiography is My Lucky Life. I have things have been very lucky for me. I was lucky to have good parents. I was lucky to be born into the Irish heritage, which was very strong in the family. And I had loving parents, which nowadays is really good. And like some of the things I was saying to you about getting into Christian Brothers Academy, having that academy be established at the right time for me to go to high school there, that's nothing but sure luck, all right, and fate, okay? Getting out and being assigned to a hurricane squadron out of Jacksonville, Florida, when the war in Vietnam's going crazy, okay? I went in, when I joined the Navy, there was 2 other guys with me from Lakehurst. One of them ended up doing 2 tours of Vietnam. And the other one, who was the son of the captain of Lakehurst, got to put it on the carrier Shangri-La, which was serving in Vietnam. All right, so I was lucky. Yeah, I did my military duty, but I was lucky to be sent to this good time squadron down in Jacksonville. All right, and I've been lucky to have a wife like Penny, and lucky for the employment that I have, and there's things that I have done in my life. Even my sister Nancy says that even when I go to the casino or the track, I win because I'm lucky, which isn't completely true, but I have had good luck, during the course of my life. And one of the reasons for that luck is that I'll have a budget of $50, and if the $50 goes away, I stop. you know. So, but no, I've been very lucky. Even with, well, for a long time, I was very lucky with my health. You know, and again, when I had my heart attack, I was lucky that it was identified, you know, right away and taken care of. You know, that was 18 years ago. You know, so I'm kind of living on borrowed time, you know, you know, and I've been lucky to do a lot of good things, you know, and have a good life. You know, been lucky to go on a great sailboat trip down in the Caribbean. I didn't know if I said it to you or I said it to Jason recently that uh, it was a trip of a lifetime. You know, that was a fun time. That was a fun time. So I enjoyed it. I've pretty much enjoyed life. That about sums it up, I feel. One of the things I think that I always felt like I was a good worker. I know I was a good worker, all right, because I had gotten a lot of assignments. I got a lot of good assignments when I was working for Singer. You know, I was sent to Mexico to do stuff. I was sent to Europe to do stuff. And, you know, I think I always completed a good job. Even I was working in Elizabeth, but they picked me to do a corporate job in New York. So for several years, I had two offices. I had one in Elizabeth and one in New York, you know, doing financial stuff. And I always felt like I was a good worker, and I didn't miss work very often, you know. I was usually pretty healthy, so there wasn't a lot of sick days involved or anything like that. And I feel, and you know, nowadays, I feel like people don't take their job serious. One thing I've said many times, a lot of people think that jobs are a democracy. They're not. It's a dictatorship. You get a boss and you got to do what he tells you, you know? And, you know, I've used that line a couple times, you know, like, you know, and one of the things recently and I was so glad that I did a lot of things in my life, you know, travel-wise and whatever, and biking. My brother and I were big bikers, and we did that. But I also wanted to do a lot of walking things that I never did, you know. And now I can't walk. You know, for me to walk, especially like on a beach or something like that, is, you know, that's like a cardiac arrest waiting to happen. But to get out and do stuff and also document it. You know, it's like doing this exercise here is that I had to go back and think about a lot of things, and I listed places that I had been, and I know I left things off that I did there and stuff like that. But you know, work hard and travel. You know, so you know, I'm going back now and thinking, was that one of my jobs after Singer was a consulting firm, and I worked for them for about 10 years. And in the consulting business, the game is to finish one job on Friday and start a new job on Monday morning, so you don't have any downtime. You know, the company's, you know, making a fee on this. And I think out of the 10 years I was there, I had like 3 down days, you know, where the timing just didn't work out and stuff like that. And I got called back to a lot of accounts. After I was a consultant, I got a job with Hess, and that was because I had consulted there. All right, and I was an account manager there. I had like 13 people from our firm working there that I was responsible for, and they called me up and what they were trying to get me back in there as a consultant, and they had a rule where you can't talk to people in the firm that you're going to work for. All right, like they can't. If you were working there, they can't try to recruit you. And so they asked me before we started, and I said, yeah, and it was a good opportunity. And I was there about 10 years, give or take. And then I established my own consulting firm for a couple years and was working for the U.S. Golf Association. And they didn't want to keep me on as a consultant anymore. They wanted me to become an employee. It was like an offer I couldn't resist. Great benefits. So that's where I ended up. My working life was, with the USGA. So it was good. But work hard, make things happen.